Good morning, everyone. How's it going? I'll get off here in just a second off the treadmill because this is probably a little bit disruptive. Let me see if I speed it up a little bit, if that makes it sound a little better. I don't know, it's probably too loud in the background, isn't it? All right, well, I wanted to cover a story about who a good friend of mine, Dr. DiDomenico, is, how I got to know him, and then some big things that we're going to be doing here starting today because he flew into town for us to do some work together to prepare some stuff for our group for Move Now University and just for other chiropractors in general. And so I'll just tell you a little story about how I met Dr. Fred. So if you haven't heard of Dr. Fred, he has a company called Elite Coaching, and he built it to primarily help doctors who were doing corrective care, chiropractic corrective care. He has a background in Pettibon, and then he was introduced to CBP years ago, has worked really close with CBP, and has helped a ton of doctors who want to do really well clinically know how to communicate that to their patients and make an impact in their community through proper communication, through really understanding what people want and how to be able to connect with them so that they can see that. And now, mind you, prior to meeting Dr. Fred, I never did any official communication training or practice management or coaching or any of that sort of thing. So it was my first experience. However, I had always heard things about different places out there, different places out there teaching doctors how to be successful in the sense that, well, you haven't made a big enough impact on your patient until they start to cry when you're telling them about their case, and just different deceptive, manipulative techniques of just what I think is just unethical and scumbaggish, right? So I always had a certain connotation to ever working with anyone that would help with, quote unquote, like practice management. And Fred never really marketed himself as practice management. It was always called coaching. And I always thought that was an interesting word, like coaching, like you're playing sports coaching. And really, coaching is not a bad word. I think coaching is probably the most accurate word out there because coaching means that you are helping someone become better. You're helping someone be able to accomplish something that they maybe never thought possible or had possible within themselves but needed someone else to help bring it out, just like a good coach would do with a top athlete that has all the potential in the world, but they need the coach to really make them shine. So back up, this was, it was 2000 and maybe 2011 or beginning of 2012. I went to my first CBP seminar. I found out about CBP because I was searching some stuff online. I was trying to figure out what direction I wanted to go in chiropractic. I did Gonstead for several years. I was like 8-9 years into practice at that point, doing adjusting strict Gonstead, periodically taking follow-up x-rays and things with my patients, not really seeing a big change on x-ray, not really knowing how to quantifiably make real great objective measurable changes with my patients. And I always yearned for that. I always wanted that, being very analytical and wanting proof of what I was doing. It wasn't good enough that people were getting out of pain and they were feeling better, because a lot of people didn't get it, or I thought they didn't get it, which means I didn't do a good job communicating with them of what we really did as chiropractors. And so what would happen is I had these patients that I was making these changes with. I was helping with their symptom, helping with their neck pain, back pain, radicular pain, headaches, whatever, and that was satisfying, but it wasn't really enough because I knew I wasn't really impacting, changing the way that they were living. I was changing something about why they came in to see me, but it wasn't making a big enough change for them in their life, in their family, in their community. And so I just felt like there was more. And so I started searching, and I found out about Chiropractic BioPhysics, and I saw these pictures of before and after x-rays, and how things were changing with that, how posture was making such a big change in these people's lives. And it was a measurable thing. Posture, you can measure it, and people understood this whole concept of posture. And I thought, man, that's like so obvious. As chiropractors, we should be doing stuff with posture, but I'd never really done anything with posture. I never really talked about that word, and I didn't really know a whole lot about it, even knowing a lot about Gonstead and a lot about the segmental stuff on how to analyze an x-ray and how to check a patient, how to adjust a patient, be so specific. I really didn't know a whole lot about posture. I mean, these different concepts of like global spine coupling patterns. I didn't know anything about that. So I went to my first CBP seminar, and I was drawn in by the science of it, and I was drawn in by the whole comparative, objective, pre and post stuff. But Fred was speaking at that first seminar. It was out in Park City, Utah. And I remember he stood up, had his gold chain on, and I always tell this story when I reminisce with him, laughing, and he laughs and gets a chuckle out of it. But he had his shirt open and, some chest exposed, and had his gold chain going on. And before he got up and spoke, well, no, actually, he got up and spoke, and he was talking about just purpose and different stuff. It was pretty deep. And I thought, yeah, this is cool. This resonates with me. And then his pitch was like, hey, I can help you. I can help you do this. And I do coaching. We do boot camps. And I'm thinking, no, not for me. Okay. Then I had then a couple doctors stood up, and they started sharing their stories of how they learned all this analytical stuff, but they didn't really know how to put it into practice and communicate with their patients. And then they worked with Fred, and it helped them. And I'm kind of a pretty compulsive person, meaning if I want to make a decision on something, I'm not the kind of person that sits and thinks about it. I'm like, boom, done. So Fred had this thing where he said, okay, so who wants to talk with me about how this works and how I could possibly work with you? And I filled out a form, and I met with him, and we went and met right after the seminar, and we sat down. And it was very direct, and it was very, okay, so here's what we can do to get started. Here's how this is going to work. And like things were moving really fast. And in hindsight, I feel like I was putting myself in that position of the patient who comes in to see you as a chiropractor, and you're giving them recommendations, and they're like, well, I got to think about it. And then as a chiropractor, you're like, what do you have to think about? And so basically I was sitting down with him, and now I am in that patient position of, essentially being sold to, and he's selling me something. And sell is not a bad word. Sales is only bad if you're selling something that someone doesn't want and something that's not going to help them. All of us want to buy something. All of us who have a skill or some sort of asset have something valuable to sell. And if you could sell something to someone at a monetary cost that is less than the value in which you are delivering, then that's a great deal for the person who's buying it. And so Fred was going through this with me as far as how it works and all this. And so I took all the packet of information. I remember I took all this stuff, and I flew home after the seminar, and then I'm realizing it's like several $1,000s to be able to work with them and all this. I've never done this before, was brand new into CBP, didn't have any of the technique in practice at all. It was my very first CBP seminar. And it was like, I got a little bit, I'm going to break my own rule and say the word that I tell all my staff I can't say. I felt a little overwhelmed. Okay. And so I remember I called Fred at my layover as I'm flying home. I had all this material, and I said, hey, Fred, you know what? I'm really sorry to waste your time, but I don't think this is right for me right now. I'm going to take all the stuff you gave me the second I get home. I'll pack it up. I'll send it back to you. I promise I won't go into it. I won't read it. I'm not going to take advantage of your time and your expertise and not pay you for it. So I'm going to pack all of it up. I'm going to send it back to you. And I remember Fred said, you know what? No, keep it, read it, check it out. And I don't remember exactly what he told me, but it was basically something to the extent of he told me to keep it for a month, read it, look at it. And if I still didn't want to do it, then send it back. And I just remember his confidence and his sincerity and the way that came across, where I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe this guy can help me. Maybe I'm meeting him for a reason. And so anyway, what happened, long story short, I'm not sure how much longer the story is actually, so I know it's a saying, long story short. So I got home, I talked to my wife about it, and I said, you know what? I am going to work with him. I'm going to go to a boot camp. I'm going to learn this stuff, and I think this is legit. And so anyway, I went out to a boot camp. I started looking at the material. I started learning the different systems. I started applying it in my practice in New Mexico. And literally it was about 3 months in. I mean, I was fast tracking all my education on curve correction. I flew every other weekend to a CBP seminar. So I got certified in CBP like faster than I think anyone has in the history of time. And then, and basically I worked with Fred. I followed his stuff. I got on the phone with him. He helped me with different situations. I remember going through handling objections with different things with patients, because now it was like uncharted territory. It was stuff that I'd never done before with patients. He would help me like thought process, think through this whole process. So it's not like memorizing a line or a script, but it's really understanding what people want and maybe steps that I missed previously that led to the person having that objection. And then it started teaching me like the strategy of communicating is being very upfront, being very transparent, asking lots of questions, and covering the basis so that then if someone has an objection, you can refer back to the thing that you had already covered previously. And it was such a foreign concept to me at first. And I remember I was writing down different scenarios, and I was writing down different dialogue back and forth between doctor and patient, things that they could say. And more I would talk with them, and I would get different thoughts and insight and wisdom. And then finally it was like it started becoming a little more natural. And now fast forward years later, you know, that was 2011, 12. Now we're in 2020. So 8-9 years later, it's like second nature for so much of this stuff. Yet when I still talk with Fred, because we've remained friends over the years, I'll tell him something, I'll tell him some situation. And even though I think I can come up with a pretty good way of handling it, he always has a little bit of a better twist to it, okay? And it just is a little more refined. And then he'll share something like new in this, you know, study that he's done or a seminar he's gone to or a book that he's read, because he's always trying to sharpen the sword and get better and better and better at really understanding people. And so anyway, he and I have remained friends over the years, really a great friend, a mentor, and I've been talking to him since we started Move Now, and I've told him about it. And as Move Now has grown and we had more and more doctors in it, you know, I've talked to him. I said, man, is there something you can do to help me with these doctors? Because I'm going through communication stuff, and I think a lot of the stuff that we show in Move Now is like revolutionary for people, but I'm not trying to be necessarily the communication coach in that. I am the systems guy. I've gone through all the functional movement protocols, systematized it, made it really easy to follow, gone through the systems of what to do on day 1, 2, 3, 4, how to hit all these different marks, and it's worked really, really well for our practice. We have a very high compliance rate with our patients, high conversion rate with patients who come in that go through our system, that start care, commit to care, go through care, get great results. Obviously, they are scheduling and paying for their care. They're referring people. Could it be better? It could always be better. It's really, really good, and I think it's better than most, and especially in the whole level in which we practice. And it's been reproducible in other clinics. We have other doctors that are following our systems that are seeing the same success that we're seeing. But I know Fred can bring more to the table, and I know that there's other doctors that haven't had the experience that I had with him. So some of the things that maybe are second nature to me are still not second nature to everyone else. So anyway, Fred flew out here from California last night. He and I are meeting up here in a couple of hours. We're going to be filming all day today over at my clinic. And he and I have talked about this for really months. And then in the last several weeks. And we're talking about what are the best topics we can cover? What's the best trainings we can cover? And so we're basically going to be building out all the little gems that he can think of for, there's my little boy, woke up. Oh, you got a Rubik's Cube. Nice. All right. It's my little boy. He just woke up. He's sticking his hand through our dog door in my garage. But essentially, in the video training that we're going to do, it's going to fill in all the gaps that I think are not really gaps for my practice, but are probably gaps for other doctors' practices, and they might not even know it. I'm excited because I know it's going to be a big refresher course for me. It's going to help me refine my process of how I do my pre-consultation, my consult, my exam, my report of findings, all of that stuff that I know we have dialed in and is so dialed in. There's little pieces to it where Fred's going to make it better. So I'm excited about this. Stay tuned. I'll probably do some Facebook Lives later today. But if you want some more information about Dr. Fred, you can look him up on Facebook, Dr. Fred DiDomenico at Elite Coaching. We're going to have some stuff coming out really soon that he's going to be doing for our members. So you'll be seeing him more and more. I'm excited that we can finally do some work together. I am honored that we can do some work together because, like I said, he's someone who's really helped teach me so much years ago and has been just a great friend over the years, giving me awesome advice. He's someone I turn to for advice. Just a really sincere, just awesome individual. And he's one of the few people in my life that I consider a really dear, dear friend. So with that said, if you know Dr. Fred, you have any stories to share, comment below, let me know. He might be someone you're hearing about for the first time. You'll see more of him. I'll do a Facebook Live with him later today. We'll see some little gem that he can offer. We'll put it on our Move Now University page here. So hope you have a great day, everyone. I'm really excited for today. I'm excited to bring this stuff out to all of you. The stuff we're going to have for our members is going to be even that much more amazing. That'll be inside of our Move Now University Doctor Portal, inside of the Move Now Chiropractors private Facebook group. I'm sure we'll add some stuff in there. If you're not a member and you want to know more about that, check out the link I put in the topic, demo.movenowu.com, and you can watch a 30-minute demo. You can see how our whole program's laid out, and it's very comprehensive. So it will not disappoint. I promise you that. All right, I got to get a workout in. Talk to you later. Over and out.